Okay, welcome back. So today we are going to be making a new 40 mesh screen. That is what 40 mesh looks like. It's actually pretty thick. Most of what I found sold this as like a window screen. So the first thing we need to do is we need a frame to mount that on. So today we will be using eye protection. If you're indoors like a shed, you need respiratory breathing. And then these are actually my ear protection. These are rated to 29 decibels. They're not just regular headphones, they're actually noise rated. So we'll be using those whenever we're using the saw, just the eyes whenever we're using the hammer. So I have a framing hammer, pretty good size, kind of old at this point. And I'm using 10-penny nails because I'm using 2x4s. You don't need a nail this big, and if you really wanted to, you could glue it, which we will be gluing some things on here. So the way I'm kind of doing this is the finer my mesh is, then the bigger I'm making the screen. So this one will be 14 inches. So you take a tape measure, try to keep it as straight as you can, and make your mark at 14. Now, the thing to remember is if this is cut number 1 and you want cut number 2 over here, you do have to remember that the width of your saw blade is 1/8 of an inch. So instead of cutting where I want, basically the width of this line is just going to be gone. So I'm actually going to need to move an 1/8 inch over. And then if I wanted to make another cut, I would have to move another 1/8 inch over. And that way you're accounting for the thickness of the saw blade, which is just going to be gone every time you cut. So you use a straight edge or something. If you don't do this very often, you'll want an actual straight edge or square or something. I do this often enough that will work for me. Now, there are many different types of saw, but the kind I'm using is just an old circular saw. It works. So the main thing to remember here is you want to keep your guard all the way down. This is set to go just deep enough to cut through a 2x4. And that way I don't have to worry about getting anything else. So we'll actually pull this so that our line is free floating in the air here. I'll put weight on this side to hold it down, and I'll make my cut so I don't have to worry about hitting the ground or anything, because that will throw sparks. So, going in order here, I'll start with my ear protection on first. Now that I can't hear anything, I have a fancy respirator here with replaceable cartridges. A dust mask would work just as well. Once I put this on, you probably won't be able to understand me, so I will put this on here. I'll put on my safety glasses, and then we'll make the cut. Don't know how well you'll be able to hear me, but there's the safeties. Okay, done with that respirator. This is pine. I am slightly allergic to pine, so I do wear a respirator whenever I do it. You will still want your safety glasses, however. I don't know if you can see all the dust in the air or not. But we've got our board here. It is exactly 14 inches. So then a trick to starting your nails, if you're going to be using a nail, is setting these on top of each other and trying to set your nail. Is possible if you have to do it, but is very difficult. So what I will do instead here, I'm only halfway up the hammer because I don't need a whole bunch of power right now, is I'll take my nail, and I know that the width of this is about inch and a half, I believe. They call them 2x4s. That's not right anymore. So I'll come about an inch off my edge here and just tap it to start it now. So that will now hold itself up. You can set this on top of your board and then swing down to drive it in. And you don't have to worry about having your fingers over here where you can hit it with a framing hammer, because that's a good way to break your thumb. So now this is set. I could set 2 in this side, 2 in this side, nail it to my other board, which is exactly what I've already done. I expect most people to be interested in fireworks to be chemists, not carpenters. So if you already know this stuff, that's why we're going over the basics. So as you can see, I've got 2 nails in each end, had my piece of board here, nailed it again, and it's not perfectly straight. But you know what? It moved while I was nailing it, and this is an instance where close counts. I do actually kind of like this side better. So it doesn't have to be perfect, and I guarantee this isn't. Technically, we're actually 14 on the board plus the width of this. So if I wanted to spend time with it, I'd have subtracted the width of my boards from these cuts. It would have been fine. I'm doing this quickly. It doesn't really matter. So now you take your mesh, whatever screen it is you're making. Again, this is a 40 mesh. I thought that was like a ribbon. That's actually like some plastic. So we get our dull knife that I never sharpen. I've cut through every one except the one with the knot in it. So if you let tension off of this, it is just going to like go everywhere. So do not let go. See, it worked out. I will go edge to edge here just for safety's sake. And then for convenience, I will put a Sharpie mark. Got my line about where I want it. Try to roll this up a little bit because it keeps trying to run away. And like I said, you can see that's a pretty fine screen. This is a 40 mesh. So 10 snips are really more for sheet metal. So instead we will be using regular kitchen scissors that I don't really care if they get dull. Keep in mind that these scissors will probably never cut right again. I'm just gonna let that unspool to whatever the hell it wants to do, because it's too hard to hold it. That's about as straight as a pride parade, but you know what? We're good. So now my bundle here. Try to tighten this back up a little bit. If you don't know, put your fingers on the inside roll there and just pull it across something. I'm doing my chest because that's easiest for me. So that'll tighten up your roll. Ow. Finish rolling it back up. And now we can retie it. I don't know if there was a reason they tied it like 4 fucking times, but we'll do 2 for good measure. And I got a wire hanging. Yeah, see, whenever I was rolling it up, it bit me. It may not be a bad idea to wear gloves when you do this. So we've got our 40 mesh here. So, line it up. I really want to make sure it's good left to right. And then we're about halfway on our boards. So now you take a staple gun, not a construction staple gun. Staple there, pull it tight. We can staple over here. Pull it tight. Pull it tight. And then a couple extras, just for the hell of it. So not all of our staples went all the way down, so this is the opportune time to get the hammer. And I'm not hitting super hard. That's why I'm holding all the way down here on the hammer. The higher up you hold, the less power you have. Closer to the end, the more leverage. So now this would be usable just like it is if we really wanted to. And having gone to Home Depot, visited the liquor store, and Toxical, we now have some delicious wood glue. So, we've got this nailed together. We've got the screen stapled down. Now with this quarter board, the saw is a little bit overkill for these, so you could use it. I legitimately just use a saw on an old multi-tool because this will actually go through it in about the same time. Faster if you're really, really motivated. So the first thing to do is I want to fill up these corners between the boards with my wood glue in the hopes that they won't fill up with chemicals, because I don't want random things being introduced that I'm not planning for. Especially because, being poor, I do not actually have a dedicated screen for oxidizers and fuels. Now, if you wanted to be extra safe, that would actually probably be the way to go. Oop, that's dripping. You could have a screen set aside for oxidizers and another for fuels, and then the two shall never touch. And that would in fact be the safest option. I might have to get the alcohol to clean that actually. So now what I've got here is I've got 2 quarter boards, is what these are called, quarter rounds. 2 of them are 14 inches. They're 1/2 inch diameter, so 2 of them are 1 inch short. We'll put them on there, just past the edges of my 2x4s. And this will stop anything from yeeting itself either off of the screen, and by putting them just inside the boards, it can't get stuck there either. So we'll put a healthy dose of wood glue. Set it in its final resting place. And this, it doesn't have to be perfect the first attempt. You can actually move this a little bit. Probably just work our way around in an attempt to not screw this up. A little wavy there for some extra stability. And if you're really worried about splinters, or you have really bad wood, or 2x4s I guess I should say, then you could always go through and sand this. And the sanding will take off any splinters or anything, so you don't have to worry about that. It's just, I don't worry about that. If there are any splinters, I will find them, sanding or no sanding. And once I find them, then they can't happen a second time. So that is them positioned about how I want. So what I'll do here is clean this up a little bit, actually. Push this in, so I'm restricting the amount of glue that can come out. And then I will actually just run a quick bead of it here where the quarter board meets the, well, really the screen more than the 2x4s. Because I do not want chemical getting stuck in there either. Just kind of filling up all my cracks, dragging the tip back through there. Accidentally pushing the tip in for the 4th time. That sounded like a good idea in my head. And then just because I'm sick of this bastard moving, we will stack all of our other screens in order because I'm petty like that. To weigh down our quarter boards until they glue. And so now, when this is cured, it'll be ready to use. First thing we'll do is we'll refilter that Magnillium because, yeah, I realized that I was using a 20 mesh for that when I should have been using a 40. So good thing we haven't used that bag in anything yet. Here we are the next day. Now it's dried. You can see there's no gaps here under the quarter board for anything to get in there. So we've got a lovely piece of wax paper. Definitely hurt my finger fighting dragons and not getting the wax paper out of the drawer, because that would be lame. So we'll put our 20 mesh on here, our 10 mesh on that, and I think 3 filters is probably going to be enough. So the Magnillium comes with a bunch of aluminum shavings in it to make it safe for transport. However, we do not want the aluminum. Oh, hey look, an earwig. I hate those little bastards. Yeah, my family has taken to calling earwigs devil bugs because of the little horn-shaped pinchers they have on their ass. And if you've never seen an earwig before, that's what they look like. They're not venomous or anything, but those pinchers on their ass actually hurt a lot.
It's actually a really dark kind of cloudy day, so the only light I have is the filming light, so I can actually see all the dust.
So we've got some pretty good aluminum shavings left from our 10 mesh here. And the reason for grading through multiple meshes is just so that we don't clog one. The finer mesh that we use, then the quicker that it clogs. So by starting on kind of a coarse grain, we can get all the bigger pieces out. And it looks like in this case, we'll get most of them out. And that way, we're not really having to work in batches. We can just do it all at once. If we just put it straight on the 40 mesh, it would clog really bad. And then, you know, all the confusion as to why isn't it working. Hell, there's enough aluminum shavings, it looks like it may actually clog the tin mesh.
So we'll call that finally filtered. And we will just turn that out onto another piece of wax tape and put it in the bag.
And I mean, you can see, even with everything that's left on our tin mesh, this is how much we've got left in our 20. There's that. Now we've only got our fine shavings left and some powder. We'll spread this out a little bit, that'll help it to filter. The bigger your surface area, the faster it goes. Good lord. And it is kind of clumpy, so I will use the back of the spoon to help push it through. Now, I did actually have the thought the other day that using this, I assume, steel spoon on my metal mesh with flammable things is probably not a great idea, actually. You know, actually, I have a really stupid idea. I want to see if it works, though. I'm actually really surprised that that worked. That seemed to work really well, actually. Oh, this is so gonna get banned. I am so gonna get banned from the internet. Just the whole fucking internet at once. And then we will probably actually put that through the 40 mesh again. See if it cleans up anymore. So then, nice labeled bag so we know what the hell it is. Now this is going to be rather interesting because these bags don't like to stay open. My confidence is not great there, actually. Okay, so we will get rid of all of our metal shavings and then we'll try screening that again. So first up, there's all of our larger than 40 mesh turnings. All of the turnings bigger than a 10 mesh, or 20, that's the 10. So already, we've got a pretty good amount of aluminum here. And I made a mess. So there is most of our aluminum. Of course, this craft paper will actually, I don't know, I might be able to throw it away. I may not, just for safety, but I imagine you could. And it turns out that Band-Aids do not grip wax paper very well, so don't cut yourself if you're doing this. Great advice, I know. Man, that is trippy for me, because whenever you get the big pile of aluminum, or of powder, then, you know, it doesn't really look like it's moving, even though it is. But right there at the end, right before the last of it goes through the screen, it looks like a liquid. It just straight up moves like a liquid. And that is just so trippy to me. So yeah, it definitely seems like every time we do this, we do get more out of it. It's just like that, where it's just kind of mixed a little bit. You can't actually see the aluminum until it's on the screen and you've got more aluminum out of it. So, in all reality, I may actually just leave it like that. I also don't, I think aluminum is a non-sparking material. I will double check on that, and that will probably determine what we actually do here. But I believe aluminum is non-sparking, and if that is the case, then, you know, the really, really fine aluminum shavings are not going to be a problem. But yeah, it seems the secret to this is move it as little as possible. Because any more that you agitate the screen and cause it to filter, the more contaminant is going to come through. So that was building a screen and refiltering Magnillium.